Hey guys, it's Alison Creamer, and we are here with Conversations with Creamer. I am now opening up my new brand, so if you haven't been to that website, I encourage you to come and check it out. But today's podcast is with Apryl Roberts. She is very inspiring, has a very unique story about how she created her company and what motivates her. So, Apryl, tell me a little bit about what you do, how you got started, and give us those encouraging words that all these mompreneurs are looking for.
Well, I'm an event producer within the Hampton. I'm based within the Hampton Roads area, but I do events nationwide, as well as in Mexico. And I am a single divorcee. Right now, 2 children. The oldest is 25, the youngest is 18, first year in college.
Oh, I thought you were 25.
And I've been doing this now for about 20 years. It's something that I stumbled into. Originally, I was going to college to be an attorney. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, this is completely off the track from what my original career
Probably a lot
goals
more
were.
fun.
It is. And while I was in college, I ended up working for a local record producer that I knew when I was living in New York. And within working from him, I would do meeting planning. Meeting planning turned into holiday parties and planning events for himself as well as coworkers. And my dad was like, this is something you enjoy doing. Why don't you do it for a living? I'm like, no, I'm going to be an attorney. I ended up moving back to New York, and I had the opportunity for working for Def Jam Recordings, and I was a production tour assistant. So that really kind of piqued my interest into design and production, and I learned about staging and lighting, and I've always been a behind-the-scenes type of person. So I was like, this is something that's fun, but life switched again. I ended up getting married, having another child. I'd already had one. And I was like, I need to be home because my husband at the time was in the music industry, so he was always on the go. So put my plans aside, completed my degree, worked as a claims adjuster.
Oh my gosh, that had to have been boring. That must have tortured your soul.
It wasn't boring. It was stressful. It's stressful.
Yeah.
That position is very stressful because you're always talking to people that are upset because they've been in an accident, or you have situations where someone's hurt. So that's kind of draining.
Yeah.
And again, my dad was always my voice of reason. Why don't you do what you love? And I was like, I don't want to do this unless, I have the support, number one, but I want to make sure I have the education and knowledge before I just jump in. And at that point, I realized that no, I probably didn't want to be an attorney. I had 2 uncles that were attorneys, and I saw how stressed they were.
That can be draining.
It was extremely draining for them, and they didn't have a life. They were always working, and it wasn't something that they necessarily enjoyed doing. The money was nice, but their quality of life wasn't what they always wanted it to be as far as having time for themselves, having time for their families.
See, and I'm going to stop you there. That's the key.
Mm-hmm.
And all of this story is you can make a ton of money doing things, but if your quality of life and your joy isn't there, it's not worth it.
Exactly.
It is not worth it.
So
This is really
true.
intriguing. I love your story.
So I still held off because, again, my husband at the time was still, traveling on the road. I had 2 stepchildren, so we're looking at a total of 4 children between Virginia, New York, and one was in Trinidad. And I was the base for everything. So in my mind, I have to be home with the kids. I have to put my dreams aside because my spouse is the breadwinner. He's doing everything. And it wasn't until I got divorced that I really got that motivation to say, you know what, this is what you truly want to do. This is what makes you happy. You need to go for it.
We talk about that in my industry with real estate. Pain, people will move away from pain quickly. But I also had a great mentor that said, if you want to grow, you got to get uncomfortable.
Exactly.
So you got very uncomfortable and decided to take a leap.
And it's funny you say that because that's what my mentors always told me. And they still tell me because I still have, I always keep 2 mentors at a time, one within my industry and one that's just an overall business mentor, just to make sure that I'm doing things correctly on the business side and pushing myself that way as well.
Yeah, see, I don't do cold calls, and I need to.
They always tell me, they say, if you're feeling comfortable,
then
something's wrong. Something's wrong. So I reached out to a lot of local planners, just wanted to see if I could shadow them because, again, I wanted to make sure I knew the business side. And that
There's
I knew
another
everything.
good tip that people miss.
Mm-hmm.
They miss putting themselves in the industry, but before they start working in it.
Exactly.
I tried to coach a young person who wanted to be a musician, and I said, well, that's great. Those are great dreams. But why aren't you working or mentoring or shadowing people who are already doing it and offering your free time to learn first, or take an internship or maybe a lower paying job than what you want in the industry that's your passion? I think people forget that. They want to go straight to the top.
Because they want to make money. A lot of times you have to volunteer. You
Yes.
have to show that you're really vested
Yeah.
into this goal or to this dream that you have. And when I reached out, the funny thing is when I reached out to all the local planners, I was doing research to see who was good at this, who was good at that, and everyone said no.
Oh, they wanted to hold their cards close.
Right. And honestly, in this industry, there's nothing proprietary. We all do the same thing. We
Just like my job.
We may just add a little twist here or there, but
Yeah.
it's nothing that we have created or invented within this industry. So I didn't get discouraged. I was like, you know what? I need to move into other territories. So I reached out to planners in D.C. and Baltimore, even back in New York, because I had lived there and I knew people there. And I didn't have a problem with driving on the weekends to wherever.
And I think that's the third tip. I'm listening, I'm categorizing because this is going to be in the blog post. Get out of your area and seek connections with people in that industry because you're not feeding from the same bowl. And they're more likely to give you things that you need because they're not feeling threatened.
Exactly.
So, very good.
So
I love that tip.
I had 3 that were like, yes, if you can get here,
they'll take the free help.
We'll do it. So, and sometimes it was just driving up, and it wasn't necessarily shadowing them on events. Some days it was just sticking in the office and going through paperwork, going through line by line, and that's where my legal background came in because, again, you're dealing with contracts every single day, whether it's with the clients or potential clients or whether it's with vendors. So I had a working knowledge of the verbiage and what I should look for. And then a lot of times I was able to give some input like, okay, you're missing something. You might want to add this into here. So
and they started to find real value in what you were learning. Yeah.
I really wanted to get to the basics of everything. And then, of course, get my hands dirty and get into work. So I did that for approximately a year and a half, 2 years, just back and forth on the weekends. And again, my dad, being the voice of reason, was like, okay, when are you going to take that first leap and go ahead and start your own business? So I started my business, part-time, of course, while working. And I didn't get any business. No one knew me.
Welcome to the world of real estate. People think as soon as they get their license, they're going to make $1 million.
Right. No one knew me.
Tip number 4, honey. Tip number 4.
No one ever heard of me. And outside of my family and friends, family and friends, they support you.
But they don't want to spend money with you.
Right, but they don't want to spend money with you because they're still looking at the old version of you.
Yeah.
They're not truly vested into the new version of you. And they want to see if this is real and if you're really going to be dedicated and committed. And I get it. So I had to create my own opportunities. So I started doing small business expos because I had so many friends that were entrepreneurs that were trying to get their product or services out in the forefront. So I'm like, okay, we'll do one every spring and every fall. Rented a venue hall, started selling tickets online. And
I love it. I love it. You have all the same tools as everybody else, but you started getting out of that box that says you have to do it this way and you've got to go hire clients have to hire you.
Right.
You started creating events to bring people into your realm, and then you started to build layers of trust with those people.
Exactly.
I assume that is such a great concept, and so you actually came from a spirit of giving to help people, which in turn started to build your foundation.
Exactly.
See, I love that concept. I love it.
And all of us it's funny because so many of the people that started with my expos were like extremely close to this day, and that's probably like 10, 15 years ago. But of course, my network of friends and family that would come to support me now are being introduced to their services, and it was just a residual effect for all of us. So another thing that really helped to catapult me is that outside of that, I also made sure that I started becoming active on social media. So when I have these events, now I'm building my portfolio because I have tablescapes that are set up. People are now able to see and visualize.
Well, there's another tip is people don't take credit for what they are doing because they're not documented through blogging or through Instagram or something. Instead of saying me, they're just showing people this is what I created. Here's a portfolio. Here's the things that I've done. And I think sometimes our millennials forget that social media is a business builder.
Exactly.
Or it can completely break you down.
Exactly.
So, using that tool to catapult your career, that's a great tip.
And you have to build relationships. So many people just want to go out there and use social media to sell.
Yeah.
You can see
they're not dialoguing
There's
back
no
and
dialogue.
forth.
There's no true relationship building. I'm a relationship person. I like to have genuine relationships with people. I'm not one of those people that go into a room and say, "Oh, here's my business card. Call me if you need me." That's just never been my personality. I like to form genuine relationships with people. So in everything that I do, even on social media, if I'm commenting on something, it's going to be a genuine comment because I actually am interested in it, I like it, or I want to know more. And so through my dialogues on social media, especially Twitter at that time, was very active. I gained more relationships with PR executives and came across people that I used to work with in the music industry. And through that, I was able to start working with BET on their BET Honors Awards that they hold in D.C. just for their gifting
Girl,
suites.
your roots are deep.
So you just never know how things come full circle and people that you used to know.
Well, you surrounded yourself
back.
with contribution in the industry and started to build a platform. You didn't just walk in and say, "Here I am, hire me."
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want to know a little bit more about your specific event planning.
Okay.
So I do want to give you an opportunity to kind of share what was one of the best events or unique things that you were able to do for somebody, if you can think of something.
It's funny you should say that. One of the most unique things, and I just posted it on my Instagram this morning, I used to work with an organization, nonprofit foundation called Still Hope, which they've just gone through a rebrand, so now they're named Journey for Success, and they cater to helping single women, whether it's to help them start their own businesses, childcare, health, wellness, self-care. And it was founded by NBA referee Tony Brothers and his then wife Monica Brothers, who's Monica Diggs now. And every year we do a celebrity weekend event. And this particular year was 2014. He wanted to do, it was Mardi Gras themed, and he wanted to have a party on the USS Wisconsin, the battleship.
Oh, wow.
And they have events up there all the time, smaller events, cocktail parties, but he wanted to have a full-fledged band. He wanted to have an illuminated dance floor, and those illuminated dance floors are very expensive for one, but they come in pieces and they're heavy. So you have to strategically get it up there. You can't just walk those pieces up there. And I was like, well, I don't know if the city's going to allow us to do that. And of course, the city said yes, and all the vendors are like, yeah, we'll do it. That was exciting because it had never been done before. And it may not be done again after that because of the logistics behind it. But to turn that battleship into this big outdoor grand party that basically illuminated downtown because, and I can show you pictures, it was just
So what
awesome.
is your Instagram? We'll put
it's
that
memorable events.
Memorable events. So you can go there and kind of see what you're referring to. So on a scale, do you do small scale, large scale, or do you do children's parties? I mean, what is your, we'll say, your repertoire?
I do it all. The thing is, most people automatically relate me and my business to your larger events because I do a lot of nonprofit, and most of my nonprofits are tied into celebrities, and I do a lot of corporate events. But I still do weddings. I still do children's parties. I do dinner parties too, which I actually love.
Aww.
The more intimate parties because you can be so much more creative.
Yeah.
And those creative juices are fine. I mean, not to disrespect the corporate parties, but you do one, you do them all, and they usually stay within the same type of infrastructure. You can sometimes put in a little bit creativity, but
you can get real creative on the smaller venues when it's a personal relationship.
But I used to be the planner for the food bank with the Taste of Hampton Roads. The last 2 years, I was the planner for that. My heart is with nonprofits because it just makes me feel like I'm doing much more.
That is so exciting. So what do you think 2017 is going to be like for you?
Already it's busy.
How far booked out are you?
Right now until September.
September. Okay.
Yeah, and I do have some weekends, but I'm really trying to get better with work-life balance.
Oh, yeah.
Just having time for me. So it's hard on the weekends. So what I've been doing is making my workload a little bit less, like on Wednesdays and Thursdays, whereas I can say, okay, if I just want to go to the library and read a book outside of my normal atmosphere of the office and home, I can do that. It's those little things for me.
You need some decompression time for yourself, yeah.
It's those little things for me that makes me happy. I'll go and have lunch by myself and just order a glass of wine, and I'll bring a book
I'm a shopper
with me.
by myself. I don't need to go shopping with girlfriends. I'd rather not. It's like watching TV for me. I can just walk through a store and just enjoy what I'm seeing. I'm not one of those girls that need to have my girlfriends to go shopping.
And that's me.
Yeah.
Maybe growing up as an only child with my mother, I can appreciate that alone time where some people are like, you don't want to hang out, you want to have fruit, and I'm just like, no,
I'm good.
I'm good.
Well, when you deal with people and stuff, that quiet time for yourself is so it's needed. It's really, really needed. So, well, I love your story. I'm extremely inspired. And of course, when we stop this podcast, I have a few questions for you. So I'm really excited. But all of your information is actually going to be on the blog post with Conversations with Creamer. So if you're listening to this on iTunes or some other data feed, if you want to link over how to reach Apryl, what her website is, some of her party planning, you can also follow her on Instagram. So we'll have that link there as well. But thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
I am actually just, you are just so inspiring. I love your story. So any last comments that you want to share?
Just really, if you have that passion, don't be afraid. It's never too late. That was one of the things that I would keep telling myself. I'm getting older. I have children, and actually I was still young. I was in my 20s. But it's never too late. If you have that passion, go for it.
Yeah.
Stop
and
making
find
excuses.
those mentors. Find those people.
Yes, find those mentors. And your mentors may change over the years. Don't feel like you have to be the same person, because sometimes you may outgrow your mentor. As you accelerate and excel through your career, you have to find people that are now have surpassed that area, that is at the point where you want to reach. But make sure you always have somebody that's going to keep you accountable.
That's good tips. Well, thank you.
Thank you.